This is the Squier Strat. Got it in about 99. Relatively inexpensive guitar. It's the Squier Strat by Fender, the Affinity series. I've done a couple of things to it so far. You can see right there. Upgraded the string trees to the American standard trees. Just look nice. That's pretty much the only reason I put them in there. I mean, they do have some advantages, they say, but I think on this model, mostly just looks nice. You can see this is the HSS model. It has the two singles up at the top with the humbucker down at the bottom, but these are actually pickups that were pulled from an American standard Strat that was upgraded on a separate job. So this gives it a little bit of a tuxedo look, and you can see we've got the white covers up here with the white pickguard and kind of a black line of stuff. It looks kind of neat. Right now, this is all the stock electronics inside. I've actually got another pickguard on the way, and I've already received the electronics that are going to be replacing everything in there from Stu Mac, and we'll be doing that on a separate video, getting all of that hooked up, and we'll show that to you then. But today, the task at hand, we're doing some electronics work on what we've got here, and we're going to add a coil splitter along with a phase inverter for both this, and that's going to provide us the ability to, of course, use this this pickup here, but actually with the phase inverter combination, you can pick either one, and then also having the phase inverter on that guy as well, it allows us to choose phase inversion from this coil to this coil, so you have all sorts of combinations. By having this one in a phase inversion, you'll also be able to invert it up to the neck coil as well. So, well, we'll get started. So here's a bit of a preview of what these are going to look like. I mean, not really, but their positioning, where they're going to sit on the guitar. They're right here by the pickup selector switch. It's going to be a tight fit in there. There's a lot of wires in there. I might have to do a little bit of rerouting to make sure that the wires aren't going to be touching, or at least the ends aren't going to be touching. I don't really care if the wires touch, but I care if the contacts touch. These are just switches I picked up at Radio Shack. They were kind of pricey at Radio Shack. They were $5 a piece, but it's really not too bad as long as they're quality switches. They're just a dual pull, dual throw, mini toggle. You can see the part number there. Sort of. Not going to focus on there. That's all right. 2750636 if you care to find that guy. It's just a simple switch. There's 6 posts on it. Right there. And just 2 position. One way, the other way. No center position on these switches. They did have those available. We don't really need that for this project. But anyway, there it is. Let's throw those in there. Great tip for when you're taking apart your guitar here. You want to make sure you don't scratch up or strip out the heads of these screws. They're nice and shiny. They're what you see right away when you're staring at this thing. If they're all stripped out and marred, it's just going to take away from the look of the guitar. I mean, you want it to look as nice as you can. So I mean, there's a few dents on this thing already. Might as well stay away from adding anything else. So the best way to do that, now I've got these Craftsman screwdrivers. They're great screwdrivers, but they just don't necessarily fit in there exactly. There's just a little bit of wobble there. They'd be just fine if that's all you got. That's got a little bit of wobble. In fact, I'm sure I've used them many times before. But if you've got one of these with several different tips, these are great because you can go through them. You can find one that just fits exactly. There's just no wobble in that. And then you can go ahead and remove those, and they're going to come out without any stripping. They'll just look as brand new as always. Also, if you've got a nice little magnetic bowl, those are great too. You're not going to lose anything. As a note, you may have seen the configuration of this model. This is the original Strat model. I'm going to pick the wrong date, but the 57, I don't remember, but the 8. You're going to see two configurations for the pick guards. That's an 8 screw and an 11 screw. This here is an 8 screw, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. For now, we don't need to take out the screws on any of the electronics on the pickups, the switch. We'll leave those there for now, just to get this out of here. So I'll get those 8 out, and we'll go from there. There, we'll just lift right out. We'll have a couple of connections to our output jack and also the ground to the bridge. But other than that, let's see if I can, that's a short wire there. Let's just flip this over here, and there we go. So you can see here, we got our wiring on the inside. We got area that's going to be a nice tight fit for our 3 switches in there, but it's actually less cluttered in there than I was expecting, so we should be able to get it in there. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and remove all of the various pieces off of this pick guard. I'm going to need to get this pick guard completely off, get it into my shop, get a few holes drilled in there so we can get those switches in, and then we'll be able to see what that looks like in a bit. To get those off, the easiest way to go, this is kind of dangerous. They make, I mean, not dangerous for your hands, but dangerous for the guitar. They do make tools that help you pull off these knobs. I do not have one. I should just build one. But if you're stuck with just a screwdriver, just be really careful. Go very small bits at a time. Rotate the knob as you go. It'll eventually lift off. You don't want to bust this knob, especially since I just bought these. It came with white knobs, so got some nice black knobs. I told you earlier about that black line that I wanted here, the black row. Really carefully, and if you can, with a small screwdriver, get it all the way in here. So if you are going to mar the pick guard, that's all going to be covered by the knobs. So get it as far under there as you can until you can get your fingers underneath, and that way you're not going to crack the knob. So again, really carefully turn the knob tiny bits at a time so you can get your fingers under. So there we go. Got our 3 knobs. The next step is getting all of these screws out. Again, there's springs underneath on that humbucker, so make sure you retrieve those once this pick guard comes off. Also, this is a fairly delicate time for the electronics inside. You don't want to go yanking this off of here right now. You see I've got those potentiometers, they're still attached. Those wires on this thing are just tiny. There's a humbucker spring. I'll get the other one here in a minute. But now I need to go grab some tools to pull those off. So if you, these are pretty low, so any ratchet would probably do here. You want to make sure you use a socket wrench. If you're getting in there with a regular hand wrench, I mean, you could do it, but you risk marring anything in here. Also, this is an 11 millimeter. I think on the American Standard when I took it apart, it was might have been a 1/2 inch. But just make make sure it's close so you're not stripping out these bolts. They're not going to be on there very tight actually, because when they're put on, they don't want to crack this pick guard. So that's, I mean, they're already hand loose. I barely put any force on those, so those will come right out. Gently push them out. All right. Get these washers saved off to the side. Make sure we got nothing else on there that we need to keep track of. There it is. There's our pick guard all separated. We'll get those holes drilled in there. While we're at it, let's retrieve these screws all hanging out, or sorry, springs all hanging out in here. Again, it's hard. It's kind of hard to mix these ones up, but make sure you keep those in order. These aren't the humbucker springs. These are the single coils, and these are the humbucker springs. And there we have it. The Strat all pick guardless. Got our pick guard here. Imagine trying to play it like that. It'd pretty much just go everywhere. All right. As a note, we're going to be putting these in as close to this switch as possible. The switch down here, it's pretty thin, so we can get very close to there. It's only about, I don't know, maybe a quarter of an inch there. So as long as we stay more than a quarter of an inch on the with the body of these switches, we'll be golden. It'll give us plenty of room to work. Put those in there, quarter of an inch. On this intermediate step, I've got the 3 switches mounted in a piece of plexiglass that I was able to find in my garage. They're a ½ inch apart on center, and each hole I had to drill was a ¼ inch, so it's just about right. A keen eye will notice I didn't get them exactly perfect. I'll try to be a lot more perfect on my pick guard. And with that in mind, with the pick guard in mind, the nice thing about this acrylic is, if I take my calipers here, see if I can get this lined up just right. The size, oh, that's not quite, let me line that up right, there we go. It's right at about 0.09. My pick guard, if I take that, measure it, you'll see it's pretty dang close. We're at 0.087 right there, so it's a pretty accurate representation of the thickness of this guy. That'll let me add the depth. And actually, they're sitting a little bit higher than I would like on here. Hopefully it's about, 5/100ths higher. So we'll see what that looks like once those are all on there. But we'll go ahead and lay these out right on there. Okay, so now I've got these 3 switches attached in place. I made sure that they were going to clear each of the knobs here, as well as the switch and the switch body. They're close, but they'll get in there. And I had just transferred my lines from that acrylic piece over to here. You can see it's not perfectly aligned. To tell you the truth, this is a bit of a prototype anyway for when I get that new pick guard. So this will be great for now. We'll be able to wire that up. And as a note, I wrote on here, effect, that has to do with how I'm going to wire these up. So the posts that end up getting attached here, the way that it's switched, that'll be the non-normal effect on this side. I've also marked these split B coil for bridge coil and M coil for middle coil. That'll be the middle coil phase inverter, that'll be the bridge coil phase inverter, and that'll be the bridge coil splitter. So let's, I guess we're actually going to put this back in the guitar now, and we'll start wiring it up. Just lay this back in here. The switch is in place now. I'm going to be able to take some wires that I cut to length. They're the various runs that are going to go through here. I'm going to start just going to each one, moving these wires aside. I'm going to do the contacts that are closest to the switch first, then I'll move to that middle row, and the last. I'm actually going to save this one on the very end that's getting hidden by these wires. I can't really get a good shot of that, but I'll save that one for last, because that's really going to be the easiest to get to once these wires are moved out of the way. They're just kind of blocking right now, but that's the game plan. We'll see how it goes. All right. After a lot of soldering, it's a bit of a mess. It's hard to see what's even in here. It's not actually too bad if you could really see in there, but it's hard to tell from this video. We got it all soldered in there. I was able to test it out to each pickup. Everything looks like it's coming through just fine. Just as a note, this volume potentiometer right here, if I removed that, I could slide it over here well out of the way of everything. Made work quite easy, but it should all be hooked up now. All the signals here. The switches are just hidden under that nest there. So, all right, next step is to get that pickguard back in place. I want to make sure this is a ground wire here that ended up just having to modify that wire for the humbucker. Make sure that doesn't end up touching any signal. So if anything, you can fold it back in towards here. It's alright if it touches the foil or the potentiometer body, since those are all grounded anyway. So we just want to make sure it doesn't end up over here. And as you can see, I just realized I'm actually going to need to remove some material from the body here. Yeah, that's blocking out, so that's all right. I'll take that out to the drill press, just knock that out a little bit, and we'll be just fine, just like they ended up doing here. So we'll just take some out there, and we'll be good to go. Push that in there. All right, now as you can see, I ended up taking a Forstner bit just right along here. See if I can get a better shot of that. Just kind of digging out a little bit. It needed a little bit more room there for the switches. So just real quick cut out. Now when I get this in here, hopefully I've still got these wires out of the way. The humbucker should all as well. There we go. Drops right down in. So now we just got to get our 8 screws back in. There we are. Knobs are turning. Switches are switching. That's looking pretty good. Now to get that restrung and see if it works. Actually, first step, we'll plug it in and we'll tap everything, make sure it's coming through. All right. So with that plugged in, just very carefully, we don't want to scratch these or anything, but we want to just hear these pops. So with this, right now this is set in my default position, so when these switches are this way, the guitar is going to behave like the switches weren't even there. So we've got this set to the humbucker, the bridge position. We just tap it. So that's good. Then we want to, well, just to double check, nothing's coming through those two. Set it to the combination. Okay, we got the combination. Now just the middle. Nice and loud. Now the combination of the neck in the middle. And now just the neck. All right, and then if we throw this all the way back here, back to the middle, we should be able to, well, we can't tell that it's phase inverted, but we should be able to switch it and still get tap coming through. Next, we should be able to go all the way down to back to the bridge position, and this is our phase inverter for the pickups. So if we do this, we should still hit both cases. So now back to the normal position. Now we've switched it to single coil position. We can see we get a lot of response from the screw post pickups. But the cool thing about this setup now, right now we're single, but we only have that one. If I pop this one, so now we're set to single, well, we're phase inverted, but it's actually set to that top pickup. So we get to select our single, which coil we actually will run on single. So there we go, it looks like it's working, so let's get it restrung. Single coil, opposite coil, that's a double, phase inversion, back to just reverse phase, reverse phase inversion, and then we can also reverse these two guys. Gives it kind of a weird, really quiet, because they're inverting, they're blocking each other. The switches are nice and quiet. I mean, you hear them clicking here, but they're not clicking through the amp, which is really nice. All right, very cool. All right, so here it is. Let's get some playtime. How about a little bit of Green Day? Right now we've got, this is our normal operation. All the switches are that way. Right now we're set to the bridge humbucker here. So. Now we can go down to single coil. That's our bottom single coil. Now we can swap to the top single coil. Then we do our combined, these two pickups. And we can invert the phase on either one of them. You're going to get this really quiet, just a muted sound here. It's almost the sound of like a AM radio, like a really low quality signal coming through, but it's actually the phase inversion. Now technically, the way that you can remember that these are inverted when these switches are in opposite positions. So right now, the phase is going to be inverted between these two. If I swap them the other way, it's almost the exact same sound. It's just the phases on both of them are swapped. Pretty much the same. But then we can do some fun stuff. So there's our normal combination. We can drop this to single. Our phases are together. Now our phases are inverted. Now our phases are back together with the single. So we've got these two combined. There's so much here. Let's swap this back to normal. We'll do the combination of the bridge, the neck and the neck in the middle. Now when we do the phase inversion here, we'll get that same sort of effect. Really thin, sort of. Then drop it all the way back to the humbucker. So our original sound.